public comment time? Here would like to use the public comment time. Third question, anyone want to use the public comment time? We will close the public comment time and now open the board meeting for Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just for information, I'm going to change one part of the discussion items and move 4C, Administrative Showcase, up to the first part of the discussion items. For your information, now we will go to the consent agenda. Approve the October 19th, 2021 County Board meeting minutes. Acquire right-of-way by condemnation for CASA 4 and CASA 44. Approve the change order number 1 and final payment for contract number CT 20126. Terminate commercial solid waste hauler license of GFL Solid Waste Midwest LLC and issue the available license to LRS Holdings LLC, doing business as LRS of Minnesota LLC, and sign the motivation agreement with LRS Holdings LLC, doing business as LRS of Minnesota LLC.
What did you say?
Accept the Planning Advisory Commission bylaws. Accept Blue Cross Blue Shield contribution for the Southeast Regional Crisis Center. And accept Blue Cross Blue Shield contribution for special project. Sorry. Is there a motion to accept the
So moved. Second.
Any discussion or questions? All those who approve the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Any unapproves? Motion carries. We'll now move on to the I'm going to need a drink of water pretty soon here. The discussion decision items. So we will start with the administrator's showcase.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Wilfredo Roman Catala, Olmsted County Chief Financial Officer. As you probably remember, back in September 7th, I provided you with an update about the hub as one of the county 2021 county priorities. The hub, just a reminder, is a central software system used to integrate and manage day-to-day back office activities, just like finance, accounting, budgeting, human resources, procurement, and so forth. The purpose of the hub is to provide us with an easy access to financial and human resources information. So then we can turn that information into action and hopefully promote operational excellence through effectiveness and efficiencies of operations. Also, back in September 7th, I mentioned to you kind of 3 pillars of the hub project. One was the software modernization, if you will, and new functionality that comes into upgrading a software system. The second one was the process improvement. We're just not only upgrading a system, we're making sure that the underlying processes are also manifested in a new way so we can take advantage of the new functionality. And finally, we talk about the importance of communication and change management. So those are the 3 very important pillars I mentioned to you back then. But today I would like to take this opportunity and focus on, rather on the system changes and process, is on people, our staff, the ones who made it happen. Very few of them are here with us today. Well, most of them are joining us virtually. So just to mention a few things, the hub has been a monumental achievement when considering that our staff did it during a pandemic, while completing their regular work and dealing with staffing shortages due to illnesses, retirements, and promotions. I'm extremely grateful because we know that many of the staff work way above their scheduled hours for a very prolonged period of time, some of them since the late 2019, as they explore if we should stay with our current system, our vendor, or find a new relationship. I am sure that everybody is looking forward for the next couple of months as the main project comes to a closure. Our staff did a wonderful job of adapting and managing the new requirements needed to satisfy the modernization work and under those unique circumstances. It took a lot of time, effort, collaboration, but most importantly, commitment. I am never surprised, but I'm always proud that our staff understands their purpose. They know the importance of providing the foundation of a vibrant community. And I think that's key when you do whatever in life, if you understand your purpose. And our staff knows that very well. Our staff not only did a wonderful job technically, but they also did it while demonstrating wonderful soft skills and organizational values needed to get the project done in a successful manner. Julian Carey, our HR director, Matt Peabody, our IT director, and I are extremely grateful for our staff dedication and commitment toward the success of this project, the Hub. While many individuals have collaborated and spent a significant amount of time working on activities that allow the Hub to be a success, I would like to identify a few individuals who invested a significant amount of time and effort making the modernization a success. So I'm going to go here in a list. So from finance, while we have about over 40 employees from finance who help this project comes to fruition, many of them tested, they help with design, build, implementation. They combine from starting of 2021 so far to date 11,000 hours dedicated to the project. That's just in the last 10 months alone. 75% of this time on this effort was carried by 10 individuals from finance, and I will list those at this time. Lucas Farian, Andrew Fawn, Jose Avila, Jackie Holland, Jackie Milnes, Lisa Sturgis, Maggie Fort, Brian Erwin, Kim Allen, and Justin Tank. I would like to take this time to give special thanks to both Kim Allen and Justin Tank, as they both play a significant role in having a successful Hub project. They put a lot of energy and determination into the project, and in my opinion, the huge success of the system modernization today is the result of their leadership and dedication. From our information technology solutions team, this team logged, again, from the start of this year, an estimated 3,000 hours. They provided project management, software installation, configuration, and maintenance. The individuals are Rita DeVork, Lynn Fisher, Chris Nichols, and Jason Steele. And from our HR department, this team logged an estimated 6,000 hours so far in 2021. They also help test, help design, build, implementation. They have done a wonderful job in training and communication. The individuals from this team are Neil Dennison, Lisa Anderson, Bill Rinkin, Eric Sin, Lacey Lucy, Cindy Roningen, Melody Lynn, Michelle Whitaski, Marsha Vettel, Sarah Welper, Rebecca Schumann, Ryan Paulson, and Elsa Mass. And finally, are the contributors from other departments. They help with the important role of communication and change management at the department level regarding the employee self-service features into the Hub. And this is probably the most known features, as we now as an organization are exposed to those features like we never were before. And I'm going to mention a few names of those individuals who did a wonderful job in that area of change management and communication. So we have Gretchen Williamson from Policy Analysis and Communication, Angie Lettner from Adult and Family Services, Carol Ellenson from Child and Family Services, Michelle Olson from Community Corrections, Carla Schultz from the County Attorney's Office, Matt Miller from Facilities and Building Ops, Ruth Olson from Family Support and Assistance, Jenna Gilbertson from Health, Housing and Human Services Administration, Dana Sigritz from the Housing Redevelopment Authority, Dave Nault from Information Technology Solutions, Kay Irwin from Administration and PAC, Jen Garnes and Sue Struckman from Physical Development, Katie Smith from PRL, Mike Milius from Public Health, and Tim Parkin, Samantha Reps, and Marisa Torp from the Sheriff's Office. So today, we recognize all of you for your hard labor, dedication, and commitment to excellence. Thank you. And now I'll open the room for you, commissioners, if you would like to say a few words to our team members.
Well, I see that the chairman is looking at me. I guess I must be the most commentator. I think it sounds like we've had an amazing team that has worked really cross organizationally to make this happen, and a lot of individuals made contributions and took leadership, but also looked at where our strengths were, where our weaknesses, what we needed to do to make this project fly, and it is a major undertaking. I'm glad that we are able to read the names. I wish that we could see you all in person. I wish that we could shake your hand and thank you for the good work. But I think this is a significant accomplishment, and hopefully it'll actually make your process and your daily work a little easier too, as this rolls out, so that we don't have as many things that are paper-driven and multiple processes and repetitiveness, that you've now eliminated all that, made it much more efficient. So well done to all of you. And there was a big team that made it happen. So thank you very much. I'm Sheila Kiskaden speaking, and I know there are other board members who want to speak as well.
Ken?
It's one of the projects that came forward some time ago. I understand the significance from an IT standpoint. Eliminate paper, efficiency of the process, no more handling kinds of issues. The magnitude of this project cannot be understated. So the dedication to, and I know there were a few fits and starts that happened along the way. Nothing in software in terms of upgrade goes smoothly. I know that from years and years of watching them struggle to bring things up in the real world in here. So I appreciate all the effort. It really is an outstanding product and will make a difference relative to everybody's life and their efficiency and how quickly they get things done. So thank you all.
Then I would like to say the amount of collaboration and elbow grease and communication that went into putting this together, it really ought to have a bigger name. To reflect all that.
Good point. That's a good point.
Thank you all of you here. It's really interesting to see your faces on the screen, because sometimes we don't get to see you, and I know we know you by your names, but not exactly by your faces. So
These days.
thank you for putting all of this together for us. It's impressive, and we all can be proud of what you all can accomplish. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to the Approve Olmsted County Growing Affordable Inclusive Neighborhoods, which we call GAIN Program Guidelines. Mr. Dunn?
I'm not sure it's working, so we can.
Okay, so let me do this or something else.
Yeah, give us the sign.
Good morning, Madam Chairs, Commissioners. I'm Dave Dunn, Housing Director for Olmsted County, and First of all, I'd just like to go back to the last item and talk about the hub a little bit and say how disappointed I am that they didn't come to us and ask for a longer name that was an acronym. Clearly, they missed an opportunity that we could have come up with something far more complicated
Yes.
than the hub. But in
I'm
all
confident you
seriousness,
could.
it is a great project, and it's exciting to have done and completed, and it's something I use every day personally, so it's great. But I am here to talk about the Growing Affordable Inclusive Neighborhoods program, or the GAIN program, and it's really been a collaboration amongst several departments, and Commissioner Flynn has played a tremendous leadership role in creating this program as well. You can see all of the departments who are highlighted there today. We've been meeting for the last several months on this topic. I know that we've briefed you before on this at your board retreat, but we're coming back here today to seek your approval of the guidelines and to move forward formally.
So before we go further, I want to just point out and give accolades to one of our colleagues, Commissioner Flynn. His idea was it brought forward wonderful idea that we worked through. I give him a great deal of credit. Let the public know that we are continually thinking of our community. And in this case, Matt was just terrific in this. Thanks, Matt, bringing this forward.
I gained weight during it too. Yeah, it was universal. No, well, obviously, I had this concept this spring, and again, we have a great community, we have a great county, and I believe this program, and I want to thank staff and everybody also. Like I said a few weeks, it was fun. We got together, it was fun. We talked about issues, the pros and cons, how to make this, I want to say simple, but practical, and growing the future of Olmsted County. And I think this program, I really believe this program will do that. So it was a pleasure. It was, again, it was something we put together. We got together in the mornings, and Tom was there, and Wilfredo, and the Katies, and there was a tremendous amount of people there, and hopefully we'll pass this and start this going forward.
Yep.
Congratulations for thinking of this, Matt, and it's wonderful when something that just exists in your head becomes manifest, isn't it? You know, it's great.
Again, I'm looking forward to it, and David and the staff will implement it.
So we're very excited. One of the things, and I'll go through all of the slides, but I think one of the things that truly did make this unique was that partnership between staff and then Commissioner Flynn. And I have to say that having that made what we're going to present today significantly better, because it's really wonderful to get the perspective. Sometimes we get locked into our ways, and to have that perspective in the conversation and the, hey, what about this? What about that? What we're presenting today is so much better because of it. And what it is that we're going to do is we're going to incentivize the construction of up to 500 new homes in Olmsted County. To put that into perspective, that is a significant investment using the ARPA funds. That is a significant opportunity for us. And I think it's going to be a significant challenge, but I think frankly, as a community, as a county, as cities in the county, we're up to it. And so with that, our goal is to use the ARPA funding to create 500 new affordable homes in Olmsted County. So how are we going to do that? Well, the concept of the program is this. We are going to provide a $10,000 down payment assistance loan that is forgivable over the course of 5 years to buyers who qualify. And you can see on there that because of the funding, one of those three kind of bullet points are the qualifying factors. So the first one is it's for people who are at or below 80% of the area median income. In Olmsted County, that's right at $80,000 a year for a family of 4. Reside in a qualified census tract. That gets a little more hairy. And then the third one's probably even the least amount of defined yet from the federal government, which is negatively impacted by COVID. So those are the 3 qualifying things from the federal government. Part of this, as we're doing this, is that We're still receiving guidance from the feds on some of the allowed uses of the funds, what those can look like. So as we move forward, that's what one of the things we want to have is enough flexibility in here, and we do, to make modifications based on those. As the interim final rule changes from the U.S. Department of Treasury, we will be able to modify with it. But what this does is it allows for a affordable home with a construction value of $300,000 or less, and that buyer who qualifies, who earns $80,000 a year or less as a family, can get a $10,000 forgivable down payment assistance loan. And so again, as we build that concept out, I think it's important to know that it is really going to help across the county. And I think across the county is important here. One of the things that we did, and one of the things that I think, frankly, Commissioner Flynn was insistent upon, and it is so much better because of that insistence, is that we called out every part of the county. This is truly a countywide program, and so what we're doing is starting initial allocations across the county for this program. So if you live in Dover, you know this is an opportunity to get 25 new affordable homes in your community. If you live in Orinoco, it's another 25. If you live in Pine Island, the Olmsted County parts, it's 30. Now these will be flexible, they will change, but what we want to do is highlight the fact that this is a countywide program, and that we want to work with cities on creating other incentives, other tools, other ways to make these properties and projects affordable. And so really when we talk about the partnership, I like to think of it as a triangle or a three-step approach or a three-legged stool, or find your best analogy. But it really starts with that down payment assistance that we're working on the GAIN program with, that we'll be approving today. But it doesn't end there. That's really the start of it. So the second step is the investment that the county has made in the Coalition for Rochester Area Housing. A significant portion of that investment that you've made will go toward helping to reduce the cost of the construction as well, because it's one thing to provide down payment assistance. We know we also have to work to get the cost of constructing single family homes down. And so part of that investment will go there. And then the third part of this, to really make it successful, we'll be asking our colleagues at the cities across the county to be able to do some fee reductions, to do some other things to help reduce some of those costs as well. So really, in order to make this successful, we're looking at all three areas to be working together in order for us to create these affordable homes. So just a little bit about as we move forward with this, the housing department. So we will, as the housing department within Olmsted County, we'll be administering this program. So we'll be working as applications come in either directly to us or through lenders or through builders. And they can there's no wrong door with this. We'll be providing that administrative approval. There will be at some point some desire for some additional staff capacity to do that. So we'll be coming back in the near future to talk about what those needs look like as we get this from conceptual to operational. And then just some other things about deadlines. So we have a few years to spend this money. So we have to have our projects committed by the end of 2024, and we have to have the funding spent by the end of 2026. So it is, it's an accelerated timeline. It is a very doable timeline, and I think if we work together, we will make this happen. So with that, I think that's my last slide. Oh, I guess it's not. Next steps. One, I think as we talked today, we have the guidelines that we're moving forward. From there, they'll be creating the application pieces. But most importantly, it's that conversations with the cities, with builders, with other folks. How do we turn this into something that becomes operational very quickly? How do we make this successful? How do we learn what are the impacts that cities, what are the pieces that cities want to do to incentivize their piece of this? Are they interested in participating? What's it look like? So we'll be having those conversations as we move forward. So with that, I think that is my last slide. All right. I'll turn it over to you if there's any questions or comments. And again, thank you. And this is exciting. And thank you, Commissioner Flynn.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Dave, one of the things I don't know is, do we have qualified census tracts for every one of our cities?
No, the only qualified census tracts are in the city of Rochester.
So will that become, how do we work, there's going to have to be some work around that with the ARP funding?
So we only have to meet one of those criteria. So the low moderate income one will be the one that will work in those cases.
I misunderstood. I thought
Nope,
we had to meet all
it's,
three.
it's confusing.
Okay, the second question I have is, are these only single-family homes, but a twin home would qualify, or a townhome would qualify, or what's the thinking there?
So duplexes qualify, and I'm looking at Commissioner Flynn because he's got the inference. If you can do the homestead, that's really what we decided to kind of put is if you homestead the property, it can qualify.
Yeah.
So that would allow the zero lot line. It would allow, okay, because I think that makes it more flexible and more achievable.
No, as long as you can homestead it, single and duplexes, that's, I guess that's an overriding thing, as long as it's homestead, it qualifies. So, single family and duplexes
Okay.
make the category.
There's also a question about, can these go into the community land trust? Did we decide if, I mean, that adds longevity to the investment, right?
Yes, they can go into the community land trust along with, if essentially for them to go into the CLT, there'd have to be, right now it'd be First Homes, right? So if First Homes is working on a project, gain can be kind of a double down for that home buyer.
Yes.
All right.
Again, Ken, as long as it can be homesteaded.
Yeah,
will
right.
work.
Okay. Okay. Terrific. Move approval.
Second.
Any question or discussion?
Just a celebration. I mean, it's a really,
Yeah,
it's a very
This is big.
well done. Hope it really works, and I'm sure we're going to have some times that we have to look at our progress and make some adjustments, but I'm excited to see this go forward. Well done.
It's a wonderful use of what essentially was unexpected cash that flowed in through the door.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations
you,
to
everyone.
Thank Dave and everybody. Thank you, Dave.
Well done.
Okay, now we're going to learn about the City of Rochester Energy and Sustainability Program.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me today. My name is Lauren Jensen, and I am the Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Rochester.
Take your mask off. It's
yeah,
a lot easier
sure.
to.
Back in 2017, we adopted our Energy Action Plan, and this really laid the foundation for a lot of the work that you're probably familiar with Kevin Bright as well. What we do today, it kind of set these overarching goals for our city and really laid out our work plans for what we do now to help the city and our broader community achieve those goals. The three main categories focused on power generation, buildings, and transportation. The goals were 1.5% annual retail energy savings, 25% renewable energy by 2025, and greenhouse gas emissions reductions of 15% by 2015, 30% by 2025, and 80% by 2050. The first two goals are largely taken care of by RPU. They've done a great job of meeting that reduction in annual retail energy savings every year, and they've now committed to a 100% renewable resource plan by 2030. So what really remains is the greenhouse gas emissions reductions goals. If you want to go to the next one. So you can see here in the Energy Action Plan, it was outlined per capita, and this was to account for the fact that we knew Rochester's population was going to grow significantly. So you can see we are on track and in fact already meeting our 2025 emissions target of 30% reductions. And a lot of that is really thanks in part to the energy. So you can see that darker blue line, the navyish color, is what's really significantly decreased each year. But it's the rest of our emissions that we really need to think about in terms of how we're going to meet that 2050 target of 80% reduction, to which we currently are not on track to achieve and will not without really radical action.
So MTCDE stands for.
Do you want to go back one? That's a good question. So I know it's just looking at the overall. So like if it wasn't broken down per capita, it would be overall tons of carbon emissions in the air.
Okay.
I don't exactly know what that stands for, but it just breaks down that carbon emissions per person instead of overall. So these are looking at tons of carbon emissions on this. And this is just a breakdown to kind of further show the areas that we really need to work on and what's really driving our work plan and our actions moving forward. So you can see energy has been decreasing each year. The light orange and the light kind of faded out yellow will essentially disappear come 2030 when we go 100% renewable. So that will drop significantly. You'll only see the contribution that those darker colors are making. However, you can see that travel has continually increased each year. Obviously, a little bit of a decrease in 2020, probably not as much as we were expecting, given everything that happened. But outside of 2020, it has been increasing. And then waste as well. We were doing pretty well for a while there, but you can see since around 2015, it has been increasing as well. Not as big of a component of our overall emissions, but still something to think about, and something that we've actually been in communication with county staff about how we can partner and support their efforts related to waste. So, in thinking about this and these goals that we set and how we achieve them, it's really thinking of, creating that triple bottom line of sustainability and not just the environment, but how we draw in those economic components and those social equity pieces as well. And it's not only policy leadership from city council and our mayor, but organizational leadership from our teammates, both city leadership and admin, but our internal green team, staff like myself and Kevin, but then the community leadership as well and how we bring them in to be a part of this through our energy commission or this past year with our community sustainability and resiliency task force. And again, just really pulling out the energy action plan was a great starting point. This last year, we embarked on the sustainability and resiliency action plan for our community to really pull out those social equity components. We were lacking that really in the implementation of the energy action plan. And how the city of Rochester as a leadership entity can really form that vision and direction and help these things happen through the rules and regulations, the public services, and the resources that we provide.
I don't understand your social equity circle.
So in order to just what it encompasses, so it really thinks about, when we have all three of these pieces working together is what truly makes a sustainable community. The easiest example that I can give is when you think about energy bills that you pay in homes or in multifamily residential buildings. If we're building that home to be a sustainable building and energy efficient, that create social equity, because if it weren't to be built sustainably, and a lot of homes are built to the minimum codes, those get passed off onto the energy bills, which then residents have to pay. So that kind of creates a burden in the bills for them. So just incorporating those pieces. Other examples would be like affordable housing initiatives. Where we put our infrastructure and our resources is our transportation, meeting those in our community who use and access the transportation. Just kind of thinking about those who typically aren't represented in these development processes and how these developments and these projects impact their lives as well.
So just to try to connect something, so the homes that we're thinking of building through the GAIN program, then would you have some standards that you would like new homes to be built to make them more energy efficient, and that would be lowering people's utility bills? Is that how these things work together?
Yep, that would be an example of it. So not only is it benefiting the environment by making the home more energy efficient, it's benefiting the economy and then the residents that are living in the home by giving them, respectable utility bills to be paying instead of a home that's just built to the bare minimum codes.
Are you actively changing building codes and requirements? Is that part of this program?
It's things we're thinking about and working on. So the city in our TIF policy has sustainable building codes outlined. So if people come to us and want assistance through tax increment financing, that's one of the things that they have to adhere to then is meeting those sustainable building codes. We're part of several groups at the state level who are advocating for green building codes and getting the state to adopt more ambitious green building codes. And then it's built into our sustainability and resiliency plan that we've just recently completed.
Do you look at particular neighborhoods and the impact of transit, for instance, or transportation on a neighborhood? Is that something that the city measures?
So I know we look at, kind of like it was brought up in that last presentation, the environmental justice census tracts in our community, and how those, configure where transportation stops are. Those are also the communities that we really worked with to engage on in the development of the sustainability plan that we just created. But there are strategies in that plan that specifically are trying to connect first and last mile connections for transit to low income communities or underserved areas.
And do you look at frequency or density of traffic in a residential area? Is that something that you measure not just by census tract, but by routes?
It's not something personally that I've looked at. I know we probably have other teammates at the city that focus on that when they're looking at like our rapid transit projects or the circulators. This was these are our broader envisioned goals that we have right now. And now we're really moving into that next step of how do we make this happen and who do we need to connect with to figure that out.
Well, I just observe if one of your bottom lines is sustainability, and this isn't to you directly, is a nurturing community, then looking at neighborhood impact of different volumes of traffic
Yep.
or users of residential streets should be something the city's concerned about. And at least in one instance, I know they aren't. So maybe you can suggest how to raise an issue that really
Definitely.
would get attention when there's been a negative impact on a particular neighborhood.
Yeah.
Just lay that with you. So
And I just to add to that, I've been with the city almost 2 years now, not quite 2 years. So it is new and it is part of my job to continue to connect with the various departments and figure out how this work and this approach to sustainability fits in across all of the work that we do as a city. So that will be kind of next steps moving forward is making those connections with each of our departments and figuring out how these components fit into their work plans and the projects that they're pursuing.
and is it part of your duties or this function to look at environmental impacts on particular neighborhoods? For instance, if there was a, you know, if there was an environmental hazard being created for a particular neighborhood, would that fit in with, or are you just sort of lofty goals?
Nope, that would fit in too if there was a particular thing that was happening. There are certain things that are written into our plan to just more broad keep an eye on. But certainly if residents reach out or if it's certain projects that, it really is an effort on my part to understand what's going on across our departments and their projects. And I am getting pulled into more of those to kind of keep that thinking as a part of it in its development.
Thank you.
So, a word of caution when we start talking about codes and building, especially in the last program that we just approved. If the codes become too stringent, the savings on energy can overwhelm the cost of building. And so we're trying to walk this line that says we want to continue to be able to build these homes at an affordable rate, hopefully under the 300K pop that we had. So I just advise you as a word of caution to be careful
Yep.
with how exuberant beyond state building codes you want to get, because it can add significant cost to that house and put it out of reach for the program we just passed. So
Yeah, it's definitely a fine balance of figuring out what works, and the economic sense is, part of the bigger picture of it all as well.
So I'm just going to echo that because lots of times I hear about the 30-year payback by being more energy efficient. As a homeowner, if I do the high energy, I have a 30-year payback. but if it means I can't buy a house today and house my children today, that you don't measure that cost.
Yep.
And so I'm skeptical, candidly, about strong green building codes because of the impact on lower income families, whether their house is a brand new one or an older one. I'm concerned that the city's um, ambitious goals around sustainability are having a negative impact that you don't see directly. But we see it when we have people come in who can't afford housing.
I mean, just to kind of on that topic, we do think about the full affordable housing picture and what really makes affordable living in general. There are varying levels of what you can do to different houses or developments when it comes to just making them more efficient. Anywhere from just installing LEDs to your HVAC system. You know, it doesn't mean that the home is net zero or you're putting solar on top of every home, but there are varying levels, and we do work with people then to, you know, here are the resources and the rebates and the opportunities or the loan programs that are out there to kind of help make some of these things happen. Um, and really just pushing those resources out there so that those who are interested and want to take that step have what's available to them to do so. So with this plan that we've just finished, we really brought in a community task force of 45 members who were there to assist us in the development of the plan from beginning to end. They helped us set goals. They participated or will hopefully participate in the implementation of the plan and really nurtured the existing relationships that they had throughout the community to bring in that wider community perspective of what are the actual lived experiences of the residents. What would they envision for Rochester's future? What would really allow them to thrive here? To really pull out those priorities and then endorse this plan moving forward. So an example of kind of what this looks like is with our task force members, we hosted through their connections 37 listening sessions that reached 110 community members, and those specifically focused on the voices that we don't normally hear from in our government engagement processes. And so we just, again, asked open-ended questions. We also had a survey that was offered in 4 languages. We had 170 responses from that survey. All of the data from those listening sessions and the surveys was pulled together and brought back to our task force members to review in coordination with existing plans in the city, the county, organizations, nonprofits, to kind of see what are we missing in our existing plans, where are there gaps, what are we hearing from the community, and what does that look like in terms of strategy development. And then that all, once we had a set of strategies, went back to those community members to be revetted, to make changes, to update, to make sure we were really incorporating what we heard from the community before it was brought forward in a community approved plan. So overall, there are 6 strategies in this plan: climate change resilience, city for health, vibrant neighborhoods, accessible transportation, resilient economy, and environmental health. There are 34 strategies across those 6 focus areas and 107 tactics outlined across those 34 strategies. This really started by aligning all of those to our city council priorities to give it a local perspective of how these are feeding into that and what we've committed to as a city, but then also tying in each of those tactics to broader global goals, such as the UN Sustainable Development Goals, to how these tie into a global picture, as well as our comprehensive plan and the core areas of that plan. So all of these tactics are matched up to a core area of our comprehensive plan, as well as the relevant sustainable development goals. They also all had to answer why they made our community more sustainable and how they were equitable for our community and for everyone involved. This just shows down, breaks down a little more that this is really a community-wide plan. The city as an entity can't do this by ourselves. It really needs to be in partnership with our community members. So city-led tactics is 56, community-led is 51, And then you can see further the breakdown of each of those tactics into timeframes and when we envision those happening or how long they might take to implement. This is really a living plan. It will change as things evolve and as we move forward, but this is kind of the starting place for us in terms of what we can focus on in each of these areas moving forward as a city to help us reach these goals that we've set. These are just a few examples from the plan that I pulled out. So in our climate change resilience area, one of the strategies is to power our buildings with locally generated renewable electricity. You can see that we're looking to identify opportunities within our community to benefit low-income residents and environmentally minded institutions. Also helping to facilitate opportunities for users to generate their own renewable power and to really look at the full life cycle cost analysis and creating those incentives that reduce that financial gap for people, but help increase efficiency. So we're, part of these tactics is not just telling people that they have to do something or should do something, but what are the incentives or the funding opportunities that we can create to assist people in that. We'll be looking at determining a carbon emissions reduction goal for commercial buildings. So we currently have a voluntary benchmarking program. We're looking at moving that to a mandatory one for larger commercial properties, providing incentives to help participants improve their energy efficiency. And then we've recently done a district energy system. How can we evaluate possibilities to connect that existing system that will be created to other developments in our community? And then one from our transportation section was to support and increase initiatives, policies, and programs that accelerate the transition to lower carbon transportation. So looking at a city, what can we do to transition our fleets? Looking at a community, how can we help the community how can we incentivize the community to increase the infrastructure and the overall adoption of lower carbon transportation options? So next steps for us is to update our energy action plan. This was done back in 2017, so it's been about 5 years now. And there are a lot of things that were written in that plan that are really now taken care of through city staff and the work that we do. So what can we do as a community? What are the 10 strategies that are going to get us the farthest, the fastest towards meeting those reduction goals based on the latest science, and do we need to reflect our goals and change those to make them more aggressive? And then integrating these components from this new sustainability community work plan. So the climate change resilience category, accessible transportation, and environmental health will all kind of weave into the work that our Energy Commission looks at on a broader view for our community, because they all kind of fall under that bucket of what we can do to reach these goals that we've set. And then finally, how do we achieve our goals? We just presented to City Council last night, actually, on what really our needs are moving forward. So electricity generation, transportation, and buildings is what's currently outlined in the Energy Action Plan. We know electricity generation is promising thanks to the work that RPU has done. We still need to look at how we can decarbonize our buildings, move away from natural gas systems for heating, and more towards electrification. Transportation we haven't had any meaningful progress made there yet. How do we get to the community on a broader scale, reducing those vehicle miles traveled, increasing the electric options? Buildings, again, I mentioned we need to increase the efficiency and electrification of those. So what are the policy decisions moving forward as City Council? Is really, transportation, waste, how can we support the county's efforts for composting or a materials recovery facility, buildings through our benchmarking and our district energy system, and then review the findings of kind of these updated strategies within our energy action plan and adjust our goals and actions accordingly in terms of how that's reflected in our work plans moving forward. And I think that's it. So if there are any questions or comments, thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Questions or comments? Thank you. That was interesting. Okay. Move on to board and committee reports. Commissioner Flynn,
I have nothing, Stephanie.
Commissioner Cascaden.
Yesterday, Commissioner Wright and I attended the Association of Minnesota Counties District 9 meeting, and I'm sure he's going to have some additional kind of comments. We were able to get into and ranked high, Mr. Travis Grancy, the community corrections funding. It got ranked as one of the priorities coming out of this region, so that's good. The background for all of you is that the state of Minnesota has a commitment to fund community corrections and county probation officers in the county operated system at 50% of the costs, and they've been funding it at 29% of the costs. And they have not given us increases in several years. We got a one-time funding increase this year. So we're seeking to have this added to the MICA and the AMC platform as a priority to try and correct that omission on the part of the state of Minnesota, so that we can have the funding that we are legally due, and can have that support and take it off the levy. So that was a bit of a success yesterday. We also heard, we had quite a long presentation about the opioid settlement. And I know that Commissioner Wright took a lot of detailed notes about this, but the bottom line is that there's two different funding sources that will, on the national level, will be coming to states. And the state of Minnesota we have to have we're slated to get about $300 million payable over 18 years. We have to have a agreement by January 2nd if we're going to sign on to this national settlement. And so there needs to be an interstate agreement. And we have a task force working to look at how the funds will be distributed in Minnesota. And it's complicated with many, many layers. But the bottom line is that we will have, as a board, be asked to make a decision in December. And we were cautioned by AMC not to sign off on any settlement agreements until there is this negotiation. Evidently, there are 26 counties and 7 cities in Minnesota who have filed their own lawsuits. And so it's a very multi-layered issue. But we've been asked by AMC to pay close attention to the emails that we will be receiving about the opioid settlement, to be prepared to have a discussion in December, and hopefully they will succeed in negotiating. One of the issues that came up is that the Attorney General has sent a letter out to all of the cities through the Minnesota League of Cities and the Greater Minnesota League of Cities, and so now we have our cities seeking funding. But the funds were intended to be used for dealing with prevention, treatment, and individual kinds of settlements, the kind of work that counties do, not cities. So now we have a new political complication in Minnesota for getting to the place that we have an agreement that all the counties and the cities can sign on to. So it sounds like it's very complicated, and they're hoping to have the agreement reached by the end of this month and have cities and counties across the state sign on to the negotiated agreement by the end of December. It looks like Ms. Welsh has more information than I. And did our stand is correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioners, I just thought I would point out that Brent and I have been planning for two separate closed sessions to meet with the board about this. Brent's really our key staff on this, and he has kept us abreast of this. And anything else you want to add, Brent, while they're on this topic?
Not really, other than we've got outside counsel that's litigating this case on your behalf, and we've been in contact with them, received regular updates, and are aware that there are multiple tracks working with the Attorney General's office, including through AMC and our own lawyers. So we're intending to have them here on your first meeting in December for an update, and then again your second meeting to hopefully make a decision.
Okay, so I learned a lot yesterday, so sorry, I guess I didn't track earlier with all that we were doing, but so that is that's pending. And I think that's probably the most significant thing to report on. And just a reminder of the AMC annual meeting in the first week in December where we'll approve the platform. And Micah's is in January, so, okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Wright?
Yeah, thank you. I was also at the AMC meeting, and I think it's significant to note that, of course, first of all, Olmsted County was fortunate in receiving about $31 million in ARPA funding. A lot of the other counties received far less than that. And because of that, we were able to put a significant amount into housing, which is not the case of the other counties of how they're using their money. We're also very fortunate that we have very good financial management in the county, and that our AAA bond rating is so high, it affords us to loan money at less than other counties can do. So we were able to put our ARPA money into future programs, things that we couldn't have done without it, and that we can create a legacy for the future out of that money, whereas other counties are using a lot of their money to make up for lost revenues and things that they fell behind on during the COVID period. So we're very fortunate in Olmsted County, and we're very fortunate that we have the staff that we have to help us plan those kinds of things, and we're very fortunate that we have a board that's forward-thinking as well to use those monies for the future. So I think that that's what I was most impressed about at the meeting, as I heard what other counties are doing with their ARPA money. And then I did send out the notes, which you can read, and Jennifer Burquam also sent out the 5 priorities that our region came up with, so you can review those on your own time as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Beer?
I'd like to use my time this time to apologize to the public and my colleagues, and especially Deb, Gretchen, and Rachel for my behavior at the last meeting. It was obnoxious, rude, and generally jerky. So apologize, and kind of brought disrepute to this board, and I apologize.
Thank you. Commissioner
I
Brown?
can't do any better than that. Very good.
Commissioner Tyne?
No report, thank you.
Okay, I have no report as well, and we can't adjourn till I give you my quote of the meeting. And I thought I would quote something from Colin Powell, a great American that just died recently.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "All children need a laptop. All children need a laptop. Not a computer, but a human laptop. Moms, dads, grannies, grandpas, aunts, and uncles. Someone to hold them, read to them, teach them. Loved ones who will embrace them and pass on the experience, rituals, and knowledge of 100 previous generations. Loved ones who will pass on to the next generation their expectations of them, their hopes, and their dreams." Colin Powell.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very good.
wonderful.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.